helplessness is your best friend, savage.
Welcome to Kastljós. You've been researching pornography for 20 years. How has it changed in this time?
I think pornography has changed for the better. It's more out in the open, people know about it more. It's cheaper, easier to afford, and I can do it all in the comfort of my own home.
Well, when I talk about pornography, I think a lot of people, especially women and older men, are thinking of Playboy or Penthouse like 15, 20 years ago, which is a naked woman smiling in a cornfield. And the question often becomes, why are you so upset over this?
You seem to have a problem with that because people are cashing in on their sexuality. And you seem to have a huge problem with that because you're an idiot.
And my answer to that is you have to know what pornography has become.
I think most people are smart enough to know what pornography is without you telling them what it is.
Since the internet, the industry of pornography has changed drastically. What the internet did is it made pornography more affordable, more accessible, and more anonymous.
All of those are truly good things. There is no bad connotation to that, so her problem is what?
And with that, you basically increased the amount of men and boys using porn.
Not to mention women who use porn.
And what happened is what was once considered softcore mainstream has now changed to hardcore mainstream.
I have no idea what she's talking about, but the difference between hardcore and softcore is that in softcore they don't show you penetration. In hardcore they do show you penetration.
So there is really no more softcore porn on the internet.
Yes, there is softcore porn on the internet, you just have to go looking for it. Personally, I don't watch softcore because I just don't see the point of it.
If you put porn into Google today, you don't come up with anything softcore because softcore porn has migrated to pop culture.
I'm not entirely sure what she means, but I think she means that softcore porn has become so mainstream that it's invisible. And that's a severe problem because...
What you come up with is what the porn industry calls gonzo.
Yeah, again, gonzo is not a style or a political agenda when it comes to pornography. All gonzo is porn without a fourth wall. In other words, the cameraman is involved in the action. There may be some dialogue between the two actors or actresses.
Which is shorthand for hardcore, cruel, abusive, misogynist pornography.
Simply put, no, it's not. She's just saying that to make herself sound big and clever. Which it isn't. It just sounds stupid, repetitive, and annoying.
That is mainstream. So any boy in Iceland around 12 or 13, and the average age of looking at porn for the first time here is 11.
The statistic about children viewing pornography at the age of 11 came from a website called Top Internet Filter Review, which is run by a man named Jerry Repletto out of Huntsville, Utah. This is a false statistic which came from a man named Mark Castleman, who is a self-proclaimed former porn addict, and an author of a self-published book called The Drug of the New Millennium. When Seth Lubov in 2005 for Forbes magazine pressed this man about where the statistic came from, he said, I quote, "I don't remember where I got that from. That is a very common statistic. This number is made up and it came from nowhere, and it is evidence of Dines' either terrible research or very good cherry picking of data. The actual data for when people are introduced to porn or when they're seeking it out came from Kimberly Mitchell and Michelle Ybarra. Kimberly Mitchell is from Crimes Against Children Research Center. Michelle Ybarra is from the Internet Solutions for Kids. Out of a random sample survey of 1,500 kids aged 10 to 17, they found that they didn't start seeking out internet porn until the age of 14. At the age of 14, most people have started going through puberty, and this is a very common age to be sexually curious.
When he puts porn into Google, he is coming up with the most hardcore misogynist images that years ago you would have to go to a special part in a special shop to find.
Look, it's down to the individual where they get their sexual jollies from. As long as the actresses and actors are consenting to what's going on, whose problem is it?
Have we given up on trying to decrease pornography?
Well, there's been no political will in any country that I have seen that has said that the pornographers should not be in charge of controlling sexuality.
Personally, I don't think pornography is in charge of our sexuality. In fact, sexuality is individual, but despite that, all pornography does is give me the option to watch or indulge in certain particular acts or images I wouldn't have access to.
For the vast majority of the population. So in a way, I don't think we've so much given up as we never even started to take this on.
A big wooden cross. So every time you feel unappreciated for all your sacrifices, you can climb on up and nail yourself to it.
I mean, when you think about the porn industry, which is the major form of sex education now for boys all over the world.
It seems to be incredibly one-sided when she talks about porn. It's always men and boys that she ends up talking about. But anyway, I honestly think the biggest sex education should be your parents, then your school.
The porn industry, most of it comes out of a small part of Los Angeles in California.
Neglecting two key facts. One, pornography has moved towards more individuals with webcams doing their own small thing and uploading it onto websites for free. And two, there is pornography built all over the world, in Japan, England, most of Europe, where people are free to make their own choices. The only countries that don't make pornography are those ones that you usually see burning the American flag and saying death to the infidels.
So 70 to 80% of all pornography consumed in the world is produced in Los Angeles.
I cannot find that statistic anywhere on the world, so if anybody knows where I can find that exact statistic, let me know. But from what I can understand, about maybe half of all pornography companies are based in the US. So that's barely 50% of all pornography built worldwide is made in the US. And let's say, for instance, half of all that. So you're only talking maybe at best quarter of the porn made in the world is from Los Angeles. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that.
So the question I asked to people in Iceland, and indeed all over the world, is do you want a small group of American men?
You do know pornography is also built by women. You should know you've actually dealt with Christine Taramino and Maxie Storm, who are both porn directors and are both women.
Who are misogynist, who hate women, who are cruel and who are violent.
Two, that's a very ad hominem attack of you, suggesting that all people in pornography hate women. And two, they don't decide sexuality, they are giving me the option to indulge in certain sexual fantasies.
Do you want them deciding the sexuality of men in Iceland, in Norway, in Finland, in England?
As previously mentioned a couple of times before, they are not deciding sexuality, they are giving me the option to indulge in certain sexual fantasies or ideas.
Because that's what's happening now. You're seeing a very small group decide the sexual template and the sexual identity of boys.
Unlike you, wants to decide the sexual template of every person, that being rampant conservatism.
You have just come here from speaking with ministers and other people, and they are very shocked of what you have to say. Is there a method of yours to shock people?
Yep, she's going to admit it. She's using scare tactics to get her own way.
I don't think it's my method. I think the image is shock, because again, a lot of people, they think they know what pornography is.
People do know what pornography is. You're just doing is scaring them and strong-arming them into giving you political power and financial aid because you wouldn't be able to get either of them because you're an idiot.
And I don't even use many images. What I do is I tell them I'm just going to walk you through the porn industry. I'm going to show you what a 12-year-old boy will come up with if he puts porn into Google. And I just show them. For example...
Here comes the Gail Dines' tactic of saying that women in pornography are being spat on, being pissed on, being urinated on, being shat on, being set on fire, they're being penetrated orally, vaginally, in the ear, in the eyes, they're being killed, murdered, horribly set afire, they're being hung, drawn, and quartered, and all that stuff.
The standard acts in pornography today, standard that you will always see, is gagging women with a penis to the point that she is really gagging, can't breathe, and in some point she even vomits, and they leave that in the film.
Personally, I have never seen vomiting in a porn movie. As for gagging, I've seen that a couple of times. But she's saying standard. I haven't seen that in about, 3 years? Mainly because I don't go looking for that stuff.
Very, very brutal, rough anal sex.
And your problem with people having anal sex is what? If they're adult and they're consenting to it, they're allowed to stick whatever they want to, wherever they want to stick it. It's none of your concern.
To the point that women's bodies cannot tolerate this. The average woman in pornography today can only tolerate about 3 months.
Lisa Ann this year's had her 40th birthday this year. Tristan Taormino has been doing porn for well over, 6 years, if I'm remembering correctly. You've dealt with Maxie Storm, who's done porn for about 5 years. You've dealt with Ron Jeremy, who's probably been doing porn longer than I've been alive. So that statement is bullshit.
They say her body gives out after 3 months. That just gives you a sense of how cruel it is.
Most porn stars can last 5 years in the industry. And trust me, you don't hear you complaining about sports stars abusing their bodies, so that's one huge inconsistency.
The average porn movie is 1 woman, 3 men, orally, vaginally, anally, pounding away at her.
Yet again, if the woman is consenting to it, why should it be a problem?
Calling her the most vile names, pulling her hair, spitting into her face. I mean, this...
A big wooden cross. So every time you feel unappreciated for all your sacrifices, you can climb on up and nail yourself to it.
This is the sexuality that is now passing as sex education for most of the world's population.
It's not the problem of pornographers that people are using as entertainment. It's down to the individual. As for education, it's probably down to your parents or the schools.
You talk about how this is affecting pop culture as well, and how everyone is participating in that.
Yeah.
Honestly, every time when people talk about pop culture, I can't help but think of Family Guy.
So, says here you're involved in the plotting of September 11th? Well, that's what they get for supporting Israel. Yuck, 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 gosh. Okay, into the eternal pit of fire you go.